Hi all, this is Allmighty and welcome to this video. In this video, finally we have gotten to the match between Capablanca and Marshall. So a very exciting match that took place in 1909 from April to June. So the thing about this match is that it lasted for quite some time, and the reason is that the match was arranged in a way that the first guy who actually comes to the 8th victory wins the game. So like in the match with Corso, draws were not included. So you would actually have to win 8 games to actually win the match. And in chess, that is no easy fit. As most of you know, most of the classical games end up being a draw in chess. And on one side you have a 20-year-old Capablanca, and on the other side you have 31-year-old Marshall, Frank James Marshall. So most of you maybe have already heard about Marshall through the Marshall attack variation of the Ruy Lopez, a very interesting attack that's really hard to play against with white. And besides that, Frank Marshall at that time was considered to be one of the top players in the world, like probably in the top 10. He was definitely one of the best players in the United States of America, since in this year, 1909, he became the USA chess champion and stayed champion for 27 years. 27 years, so until 1936. Yeah, that is an amazing achievement. And okay, this is 1909, before that era, but you can see that we are talking about a pretty good player here. And okay, this match with Marshall meant a lot for Capablanca, because this was just a necessary step for Capablanca in his climbing to the throne of the chess world. Just a necessary step for him to be recognized even more and play against much better players. So going into this match, many speculated. So on the other hand, you had chess players, chess experts saying that, yeah, Capablanca is inexperienced, he's only 20 years old. Yeah, he played simultaneous matches all over USA, but yeah, you play against weaker players, you can win that easy peasy, you know. But Capablanca is here to show them wrong. Actually, one guy considered that being false, that you're thinking too lightly about Capablanca. And of course, that man, opinion of that man mattered, since that was Emanuel Lasker, who was the current world champion. And even at that time, Lasker was afraid that he was going to be playing Capablanca very soon for the title, so the title match for the champion of the world. But okay, enough of the talk. Let's see this game. So I'm going to be covering a lot of games. Some games from this match, since it was a long match and a pretty important one for Capablanca and important for this story. But of course, I'm not going to be covering all the games, since that would just take too long. Here we have, as you can see above me, I'm going to be writing the number of the game. So this is round 2. The first game ended up in a draw. I thought I could show you also this game, but since I've said maybe it would take too long, I plan to show only decisive games and very interesting games. So let's start. Very usual start for Capablanca here, playing e4, e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, bishop to b5, the Ruy Lopez. And differently from the previous game I showed you, where Mr. Schliemann played d6, Marshall plays f5 here. So this is a Schliemann defense of the Ruy Lopez, and yeah, kind of a good recipe for Capablanca, since he didn't know the openings. But yeah, he actually mentions in his book that he actually studied Ruy Lopez a bit, some analysis from Lasker, but he actually thought that they were wrong, and yeah, he made some analysis of the Ruy Lopez. And so that is why most of his games were actually played in the Ruy Lopez. But this defense, yeah, this is a tricky one, also for me when I'm playing it. But let's see it. Knight to c3 and knight to f6. As you can see, black is pressuring on the e4, and he would very much like from white c to capture on f5, that he can push then d5 maybe in some variations, and then take up the whole center. Here queen to e2, Capablanca stays on this e4 pawn, he doesn't want to take on f5, and now knight to d4. As you can see, Marshall goes for it. Now knight attacks on e2 and f3, and white is forced to take on d4. Knight takes d4, e takes d4, and here e takes on f5 with check. Bishop has to defend on e7, and now knight has to move because the pawn is attacking on c3. Black goes castle, and now knight takes f6, bishop takes f6, and in this position white is a pawn up, but it's now not all that clear, since black pieces maybe look a bit better. He is already castled, and now white has to castle because rook to e8 he would pin the queen because the king would be on e1. Okay, and now d5. Yeah, the best move in the position. You're opening up this bishop to attack on the f5 pawn. You're also expanding in the center. Yeah, that's what you need to do in order to win games. Bishop to d3. So kind of a difficult decision here from Capablanca. So couple of ideas. This bishop here doesn't look the best. I mean, he is kind of a guarding on e8, but c6 can be easily played and prevent this. And if c6 is played, and if you stay on this end of the board, if for example you push d3, then this bishop is kind of cramped because he can go to a4 and b3, but in the end the black center will be so stable that essentially this white bishop wouldn't have that many squares to go to. And the other thing is, if you want to stay on this end of the board, then you have a problem with this bishop. But if you go to d3, you're defending this f5 pawn, and also you have to think about this bishop on the other hand. So this bishop won't go on this side of the board very soon because, yeah, the d2 pawn isn't moving. You have to maybe play b3 or c4 to develop it on the other side. But of course, that depends on what black actually plays. Here Marshall played c5, he stabilizes in the center, a good move. And now queen to h5. So Capablanca is very keen to defend this pawn. Of course, he had to move the queen because c4 is the threat here, and the bishop actually cannot move anywhere. So actually, as we can see, queen to h5, he is trying to do something on the king side. And here Marshall played... Okay, so this is the first move that I don't like from Marshall, actually. So queen to c7. Why don't I like this move? For example, it's nothing wrong with this move. It's just I don't see it doing anything anytime soon. I mean, probably the idea is queen to e5, and when he moves the bishop or something, there is more pressure on this pawn. But he should have seen the immediate threat that Capablanca made. So he played c4 here. He just wants to get rid of the center or take with dc3 if en passant, just to open up this bishop, you know. So my idea would maybe be bishop to d7 here, and if c4, bishop to e8, attacking the queen, and when queen to f3, for example, then bishop to f7. Kind of pushing this bishop to the center and still having the stable center, so maybe it would be looking better. This bishop is still here. Yeah, that would be more of my idea. But okay, there's nothing wrong with queen to c7. So queen to h5, queen to c7, and now c4. And here d takes c4 because essentially if queen would move and defend this pawn, Capablanca would just capture and then maybe even play b3, queen, bishop c4 because the king is still here. So pawn takes, bishop takes, king has to move, and in this position now Capablanca plays d3. And already you can see that he is now allowing this bishop to develop on this side. And yeah, now actually Marshall starts to have problems with Capablanca. Queen to e5. Okay, so the idea behind this move is to once again attack this pawn, and Capablanca responds with g4. So a questionable move, but still, yeah, it defends the f5 pawn. And there are some threats now because, yeah, this pawn is defended. This bishop is eyeing here. This bishop is eyeing here. The queen is here. Yeah, the thing is, yeah, black needs to pay attention to this king side because this king isn't looking good. So bishop to d7, trying to put it on c6 and then maybe control this diagonal. And here Capablanca played a4. So maybe he could have just developed bishop to d2, maybe he was afraid of b5 or something, so he played a4 just to be sure. And in this position, this was actually probably a good chance to play g6. I mean, you're losing a pawn again, but you're exchanging queens, and white has a couple of weak points in the position. So let me just show you. Takes, so takes, and okay, as you can see here, there are 3 pawns on this side of the board, but after bishop to h4, yeah, it's questionable, because bishop also will come to c6 or f5, this rook to f6, you include the other rook. Yeah, it's now you have to play this position. There are a couple of weak points in the white positions, also this diagonal, and you can play against this. And the thing is, you want to exchange queens because your king is cramped, and you have to really pay attention to that. So okay, so Marshall didn't play g6 here, he played bishop to e7, and now is actually the time where all went wrong for Marshall. Bishop e7, he has an idea, of course. So probably bishop to d6, bishop to c6, and rook to f6 to h6. Those would be kind of normal moves, so you want to attack also on the king side, like Capablanca is attacking you, you want to attack back. Attack is the best defense, right? But unfortunately this is too slow, and Capablanca sees that immediately, because he knows he puts the bishop on d2, and after he puts the rook on e1, the bishop is right behind this queen, and black doesn't have time to do anything. So bishop to d6, or if a rook comes to e1, you cannot capture because queen guards that. So even this rook to e1, so queen cannot capture here because of course queen is guarding it. So queen to f6, bishop to g5, and yeah, this queen doesn't have anywhere to go. You have to play bishop sacrifice on h2, and when the king takes, then queen can go somewhere here. So as you can see, you don't have time to play this, so Marshall played queen to e2, and here of course Capablanca plays rook a to e1, queen takes on d2, and rook takes on e7. So as you can see, already in this position, Capablanca has the rook on the 7th rank, attacking this bishop. This bishop is attacking here, the queen is attacking here. Yeah, nothing good is happening for Marshall here. So, and the next move, Marshall actually plays bishop to e8, and now actually I think we come to the moment when Marshall actually realizes who he's playing against. Now, he is not a 20-year-old inexperienced boy, he is not just some random player, he is actually a player who has great plans for the future. Here in this position, Capablanca plays f6. We see a common theme in these games of Capablanca, where he just leaves his queen on the side and he is just threatening something else, you know. So here, let's just analyze a couple of moves. If he captures on f6, this is an easy checkmate on h7. If for example rook captures on f6, then you can just capture the bishop. You don't want to take, of course, because this is also checkmate after rook covers. So this is checkmate, you don't want to capture, you have to go back with the rook. So, and then again, rook to e7 is much better than to take. You want to keep pressure on the 7th rank. Again, you lost a piece. Nothing good happened here for black. If bishop takes on h5, you can also see this checkmate. This is, yeah, checkmate with a pawn, always nice to see. And here, to prevent all of that, Marshall played the best move, which is queen to h6. And now Capablanca exchanges, sorry for that, g takes on h6, and a rook from f to e1. He's keeping the pressure, of course, so this rook cannot capture on f6 because you capture the bishop, and black loses a piece. So Marshall played bishop takes on a4, and now rook takes on b7. Again, if rook takes on f6, you have the other rook comes on e7, and then you start to have problems. On the 7th rank you have check and check with another threatening checkmate, all sorts of problems. Again, Marshall has to defend, rook a to e8. Capablanca gladly exchanges one of the rooks, and now rook takes on a7, taking the pawn and also attacking this bishop. There are no threats like bishop to c6 and playing rook to e1 because easy f4 and you can go out with it with your king. So he played bishop to d1, Capablanca defends on g4, h5, g5, putting the pawns on the black square since black has a light square bishop, h4, and now f4, starting to push the pawns. And as you can already see, I mean, the material is Capablanca is, so let me just count it quickly, 2 pawns up, but positionally, yeah, black is just destroyed. He always has to take care of the 8th rank because the king is not looking good here, and these pawns will just go in front, and that is pretty much it. Bishop to h5, f5, pushing the pawns, rook to f8, rook to c7. It's time to take this pawn as well. Rook to b8, and now rook takes on c5, and in this position Marshall resigned the game. He cannot take even on b2 because rook to c8 is check, and this is checkmate. So if we could just go to that position that I was like, yeah, really amazed when I saw. So in this position, when Capablanca played f6, yeah, this is the moment that I would say that Marshall actually realized who is playing against, and that in all other matches he has to be extra careful and always take lightly if he wants to attack the queen, Capablanca's queen or not, because he tends to leave it there and just play some other move. Okay, so this is it for this match. After the second round, Capablanca is already leading 1-0, and yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. As I said, I'm going to cover a couple of more games from this match because it's pretty interesting. As you can see, you have lots of these moves from Capablanca here. So okay, that being said, I would like to thank you for watching this video, and I will see you next time.